Hello everybody and welcome to the November 2023 update from Clydebridge Station, and I hope you enjoyed last month's update where I surprised you all by starting the rebuild of this whole area here, the depot area. Now work on this depot area is going to carry on in this month's update, and the main focus is actually going to be around about this whole area here. We're going to be installing the dropper wires back under the engine shed, and I'll be installing the dropper wires where they ought to be, back in these points here, here and here and in here, and I believe there should be a set to go in here, I think. Check that out. In addition to that, we'll be showing you, we'll be taking further on the work that I was proposing for here. During this programme we'll be going up the stair to have a look at the website of Model Railway Scenes, because they've got stuff that I'm going to be using eventually in here, shop signs, and I'll actually be able to use them here on the NatWest Bank as well. More about that later on in the programme. Now, I'll be taking my time, as I'm always going to be doing throughout this programme now, or throughout this series, so I promise you, I will not be rushing things. So what you're going to see in this programme might be about 40-50 minutes at the very most, but it'll have taken quite a few days and a few weeks to have actually got done, and it is going to be just a small progress as usual. Of course, any comments, queries, suggestions that you've got for me, please do leave them in the comments below. I'll be giving a few shout outs to layouts and to other non-railway people or organisations throughout the programme. Dean Park Station, run by my good friend David Watson, and Everard Junction, run by Richard Warren, are both here on YouTube, and you can go and check them out, please. They were the two that got me back into modelling model railways back in 2018. Also check out my good friends up there, Wrangler, www.wrangler.com, and that'll take you to the local site in your area for the best clothing that you'll ever buy. So if you're all ready, all aboard and enjoy what you're about to see. Now before I carry on, I will apologise for the alarm that you can hear out there. It's not actually coming from my house, but just prior to me starting filming this section, there was a 1 second power cut, and I suspect it's that power cut's caused the alarms to go off there. I've got here the dropper wires that I had to remove when I was doing the reballasting, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to get them soldered back on to the appropriate points. When I was doing a little bit of testing just before starting to film, I noticed a little problem that's cropped up, but it's not an insurmountable problem. When I had the sleeper train parked in here with the Class 47 on it, the original position of the buffer stops meant that these coaches here were actually striking the sleeper train, which is in platform 6 now. I've moved the buffer stop back a bit, but I believe that the Gauge Master buffer stop might be a smaller one, and if that's the case, it'll fit in there no problem, taking up less space. So it's a temporary solution that I've done here, and it means that there's just enough room for the coaches to get by without striking any locomotive parked in here. The alternative, of course, would be to detach the locomotive from the sleeper stop and park it up in here. So it's not the end of the world. But my previous practice has been that the locomotive that would be working in the sleeper train would be based and coupled up to the sleeper train for the day. The dropper wires are here and here as well. And then I've got the set that has to go under this notch here in the wall and go into here. During the concrete rebuild, by the way, I'll be making mention of a friend of mine, Trevor Stubbs, who said that I'll need to get cover these joins up with concrete sheeting, and that will happen as well. Now the concrete sheeting will come from Scale Model Scenery, and I'll provide the links to everything that I've used in the description below. The first job I've got to do is to get these dropper wires soldered back on, and I must just make it very clear, the power that I've got here will be turned on, and that will allow power to go to the soldering iron, and also it will allow power sorry, it'll just be for the soldering iron. I'll plug it into this spare socket here. When you're soldering or putting actual solder onto the track, either have the trains well away from the area and running on other parts of the layout, in other words isolating the track, or the best course of action, keep the power off. So I'll go and get the soldering done right now. That's the majority of the soldering done. For the depot engine shed area here, I forgot that I'd taken out the dropper wires. You could see there, I've got them stored somewhere, so I could always re-add them. Another problem came here because there's actually a hole here for a dropper wire, but the other hole is actually under the track, so I'm going to need to drill a hole one day, but there's no rush for that. Some of my soldering effort leaves a lot to be desired, as you could see, but I haven't run locos over this yet, because what I'm going to do is get the rail cleaning wagon, put some rail cleaning solution on it, and run it up and down all these tracks, including the areas where I've soldered, make sure everything's clean, and then we'll run a couple of locomotives up and down. I'd had to move Bolton Wanderer out earlier on so I could get the soldering iron over here, and if you can just see, I've put little faint lines there where I want the engine shed to sit. That'll be important for later on in the video. Before I run the rail cleaning wagon on the track here, I will give this time to cool down, so it'll be a few, in my case it'll be a few days before I'll be back at it, but in your case it'll just be a few minutes, a few seconds rather. Before we go and do that though, I will give a shout out to Mike down at Pudham Junction, who actually supplied me with some stuff, including a 3-drawer chest cabinet, and I've got some weight loft boards. I've got one installed here as a support floor to my shed, so thank you very much once again, Mike. Check Mike out on YouTube please, and on Facebook as well. That's Pudham Junction. And check out the current voice of rugby, Nick Mullins. You'll see him on Twitter, and Nick Mullins, that's at and Nick Mullins. And check out West Blythe MPD, set in the northeast of England in the BR era, and as the name suggests, he is a motive power depot layout. I'll get the rail cleaning wagon done, and I'm going to show you a little tip for using it that I learnt from another layout as well, who put a video on YouTube about a Hornby rail cleaning one. I'm actually going to be using a Gauge Master one. I'll show you a very good tip that this person done. I've been over the tracks in the depot here with the rail cleaning wagon, and the tip that I'm going to show you, I went and forgot to actually get a vital piece of equipment today, double-sided sellotape, so I'll just have to tell you about it. Turn the rail cleaning wagon upside down, and this is your pad here that it cleans the tracks. What this person done was, and I'll put the link to his video up in the top right hand corner if I find the video, he got some double-sided sellotape, which is what I forgot to get, and he then added the double-sided sellotape onto either side of the areas where the cleaning pads are on the Hornby track cleaning wagon, and then he got some of these little cloths that you buy out of Tesco's, the kitchen cloths, and he cut two of them and stuck them onto either side, and they're actually good cleaning pads as well. He soaked them in the rail cleaning track solution, put it on, and then he had a locomotive haul it Now, this is a thing where I'm going to give you a different tip. Instead of having your locomotive hauling it, have your locomotive propelling this. Because if you think about it, if you've got the locomotive going over and pulling it, it's going over dirty track, first of all, so it might still be stop-starty. Whereas if you have the locomotive propelling it, the locomotive's going over the track that's been cleaned, so it'll be better performance for cleaning the tracks. Imagine this is a snowplough. A locomotive would propel a snowplough, not pull it. You get the idea. All the track has been done here. I'm just going to do this one manually again because I'm not quite happy with that, but the rest of it's absolutely fine. And what will then happen is all this track will be absolutely fine. It's been tested, by the way. I've had this locomotive here, 701, operating in and out, so it's all been tested and it's fine. I'll give that a clean. I've been using Track Magic, but other track cleaning solutions are available, and the points themselves will get a good clean, and that should help with the contact of it. I'll then turn my attention, and we'll start off here, and I'll talk about what I'm going to do there. I've went and cut a piece of 2mm modelling card, which you could see there, and I originally measured the distance from this rail to this sleeper, and it'll come on like that. But a little thought's now occurred to me. What's going to happen on this side here, and do all the tracks need to be flush with each other? It is a very interesting question I've now asked myself, and the simple fact of the matter is I'm going to do something slightly different. I'm instead just going to go from rail to from sleeper to sleeper. That might not look right in terms of the engine shed, but the problem I would actually then likely face is, I'll just put it on like that for a minute, is that if I do it like that, you can actually see that the engine shed would have to then almost sit on top of that. I'm not sure that would look right. So I'm going to go for the plan B option, which is trim this a little bit more, go sleeper to sleeper. I'll then get that covered in concrete. And I say it's all going to be concrete down to about here. That's so it can give me the space to operate these points. This one's a bit easier because it can go to here. So there's a hell of a lot I've got to do. My mate Trevor Stubbs has suggested as well that once I get the concrete down, to put a cover over the joins in the concrete with some more concrete sheeting, and I will be doing that as well, as already mentioned. That's the first piece of concrete stripping for long here now done. Notice this little black mark I've put here. That's actually to tell me where to put the engine shed, and what I'm going to do now is a little change of plan. If I have it, an amazing coincidence, if I put it and butt it up to the join in the concrete there, it will sit almost flush with that. Now the problem I've got is, then does a locomotive fit in there? Well, because I've got buffer stops employed, I'm going to just show this. I'll just get this locomotive here. I want to see how far I can get in, if it can go right up to the buffers. That's it, bang up to the buffers. So that's it. If I just push it back in again, that's it, right up at the buffers. So that original idea might not work, so maybe we'll need to bring it forward after all. Not going to lay down any more concrete yet, because what we're going to do is we're going to build something else that will have some significance in where I actually sit the rest of the concrete. before we go into that little project, and it is a little project, just want to give a quick shout out to another couple of layouts. Eden Road TMD, run by my good friend Ryan Gray. If you could go and check him out, please. And if you could also check out Barnabas Junction, run by my good friend Jason Griffiths. And if you like your DRS, both these layouts are for you. So check those two out, please. Well, this is what we're going to build here. I'll just turn it around that way. I got these at Model Rail Scotland back in February at the Westhill Wagon Works stall, and it's these depot point levers, what you would call ground frames, and they come as a pack of 5. And I'll just turn it round. The instructions seem seem easy enough, but then this is me you're talking about. So you've got your ground frame there, and you've got the lever there. Carefully remove one base and one lever from sprue. Ensure lever is free from any bars. Align lever with hole and base. Push lever into hole and base. Repeat for other levers and bases. No need for glue, and there are spare levers included, which I'm pretty glad about. Now, what my proposal is to put one here and one here. I'll then need to, I'll just move the camera back further, about there. I'll be needing to get one to operate this point, so whether it'll go here or here, I'm not sure yet. That'll depend upon clearances. These have to be painted once they're built, but I won't paint them and I won't glue them into position until after I've done all my checks on them. I'll get the first 2 built and take a look at it from there. There's one of them built, and I've got one here as well. That one's fine. I've had the Mark 4 coach out and checked for clearances, so either here or here would be good enough. Now the issue is, of course, I'm going to have the ground frames here and here and here and 2 here as well. So I'm thinking for this point, if I maybe put it, I could even put it to there. That way it'll be clear of everything, and the concrete could just run to here, which would then allow the ground frame to be operated in that position, just about there maybe. I'll get the concrete up to that sleeper there, and then put the ground frame in there, and that would be ballast. Because of course you wouldn't have the ground frame sitting on concrete. From what I've actually seen, they'll be sitting on a small ballasted area, because obviously the ground frames are control the points by cables. How the hell are you going to actually, you would have to dig up loads of concrete to be able to get access to cables. So that's why I think that that's why I wanted to just put it there, so there is ballast there that will allow it to go up to it, and plus the fact as well it will be there for more realistic. But obviously these need to be painted first. I'll spray the whole thing grey, and then the lever bit will be painted black and the top bit will be painted white. And I'll do the same with that one as well. This whole thing will be getting sprayed in a sort of grey colour. My concrete, as I say, is going to have to come up to about here. I'll measure another piece out and get that done, get it in, and that's that first section here all complete. And there's how it looks. One thing I must stress straight away is that these concrete strips are not glued down yet. They'll get glued down once I'm actually quite happy with everything, and that'll involve putting a locomotive in there on test just to make sure everything is alright. The depot shed will not be glued down either once the concrete strips are glued down, for the simple reason that if I need to clean the track in there or if something happens, I need to be able to lift this off in order to get access, and I'll need to lift it off anyway when it comes to changing the point, because I'm going to be changing from all these Hornby points, some of which come from train sets I had in the 80s and 90s, believe it or not, to the Gauge Master ones, and be using a light on each one of them So that's what's going to happen in the future. I need to get a member of staff in the depot shed as well, and or do I? Well, maybe I do, I don't know, but there we go. If I could just show you that in there, that's the view along the depot shed. I'm not going to bother putting lights in it, but as I say, I need to make sure that locomotives can pass in there freely before I glue the concrete down. Also, probably about here, I'm going to be cutting a little hole to put a manhole cover in, and I'll probably put another one here somewhere as well, and that'll be using some of the scale model scenery equipment that I've got. And I've still got these signs that I rescued previously from the previous depot. Whoops. Stop, await instructions. And they'll need to get put down somewhere. Maybe need to get more of these from SMS. But I'll put one probably there. I might actually get one here too. And speaking of ground frames, I'll need to put another ground frame in here somewhere. But I'm swithering about putting it here and here to control this point as well as this point. A little food for thought there. The project engine shed is not complete yet, but is getting complete. And what you've seen me do in this section here has taken me over 90 minutes. I've not rushed it, I've took my time with it. Obviously ballast will have to get put in here at some point, but that is for another day. My main aim at the moment is to continue on with a little bit more concrete here, and even before that do some concrete in here too. As I film this now, it's a rather bit frosty outside, and I just wanted to show you the difficulties that I've had in making this next bit here. Now, it does slot in fine there, but whoops daisy, I'll just put that back about there. What I've done here is I've made this bit to the approximate shape. I had to keep cutting extra bits off, and I've yet to cover it in concrete. Now I don't have a lot of concrete sheets left, so once I get the next bit of concrete sheet used up, that's it until I can order more, but that won't be for some time. Just to show you as well that I've tried to, where possible, keep it as close to the sleepers as I can without going on top of the sleepers. Remember, this is a level 2 depot, and I'll talk more about level 2 depots later on, because I've got a book that I'll show you near the end that I bought. And the concrete will then change to ballast just about here. It'll be very fine walkway gravel effectively, and I'm going to start getting a bit of concrete put into here that will come down. What I must be careful of is I've got the problem of the overhang here. How I'll get around that is obviously cut the concrete to the size that it'll need to be to avoid trains overhanging onto the concrete, and the safety barriers will get put around here too. There will be a walkways to be installed, and one of those walkways will probably be about here, and then we'll put another one here and here. I'm not wanting to put one here because doing that means that the locomotive might actually be obstructing, you wouldn't get a clear path, and that'll allow you access onto this bit here. However, it's also got to be done in such a way that it doesn't foul the points like what I had with my previous attempt at the concrete. There's a lot to actually consider here, and I've also forgotten that I've got to put a third ground frame in somewhere, probably here, which will control this set of points here, and I'll get them sprayed up and then stuck into position like this one is. There'll be no need for a ground frame here because the points there are controlled by that ground frame. Two of my mates on Instagram that are both singers, contrasting styles of music. Synth pop, you can have a listen to Honest Jones, and country music will go from London, where Honest lives, to Lancashire, where Preston D. Barnes lives, and I'll put a link to one of Preston's songs up in the top right hand corner. Fun bit of a story that he told a lot of people about making the video to that tune was that he was in Nashville to film it, and he went down to do some filming, and he was wondering why it was so windy. His jeans had split. Preston, if you'd bought some Wrangler jeans, I don't think you'd have had that problem. That's the next piece of modelling card cut into position, cut and then put into position. It'll be approximately there, and you can see it, I've actually got it curved, and it'll start curving its way around here. It'll come out a little bit, but I don't want it to come out too far to foul operation of these points, so there will be a bit coming out. Now I must also make a confession. When I was actually cutting this piece here, I actually broke a blade in the craft knife, so be very careful when you're actually using craft knives in modelling card, particularly the thicker ones like this is. It was a frightening incident, I can assure you of that, folks. As I say, I've got to get the next piece out so that it'll come out a little bit wider, but it's only going to come to about here, because obviously I've got points here to operate. So I don't want to put concrete in here, so I'm only going to come, as I say, to about round about here will be my chosen point. And what I'll do is I'll make walkways eventually that'll lead up onto that part there if need be. It's really just going to be one more piece of modelling card that I think I'm going to need, and that, as I say, will give me the required clearance as well for coaching stock coming round here, or locomotives. Remember, of course, as I say, I don't have motorised points, I've got manual points only, hence why I need to have a bit of clearance, and hence why I'll stop round about here, the concrete. That's the next piece now done. It took a couple of attempts to get it to the right shape, and it's still not 100% right, but I'm going to live with that, and it's come up to exactly where I want it to stop, because obviously I've got associated point work and ground frames to get put into these areas, and ground frames don't really sit on concrete. I've still got to get a piece of concrete strip made to go along here, because I feel that that'll be better there rather than ballast and gravel. These will also have to all be covered in concrete, and as I've already mentioned, I don't have enough concrete sheets, so more will get ordered. Not right now, however, but more will be ordered. But it's important that I get the actual pieces together right now and get them all into the correct position, ready for the covering in concrete sheets. And I've still got to do the sections along here too. Where they come up to on here will actually differ depending upon the length of the siding, but I'm thinking probably something along the lines of here, and probably here. That's certainly what I'm thinking anyway. And obviously, I'll just change this point a minute to show you. That there, as you can see, is the overhang I'm going to have, so probably that sort of length is going to be about right there, and likewise there. And ground frames will have to be installed here and here. Now the ground frame for here is going to be the difficult one, but what I'm thinking of doing is either putting the ground frame in here or trimming this back a little bit more and installing the ground frames just there. It's going to all depend upon clearances, of course, and it may be necessary to actually install the ground frame here for this point, and maybe put it in here for this point, and then also I'll need to take it from there on in. So there's quite a few things I've got to consider. I may even alter the shape of this slightly to allow me to install the ground frame about here, but as I've already said to you, it's all about clearances and locations for them. So it's not going to be easy. I haven't actually got this ground frame stuck down yet, so I could show you the example. That there is probably going to be too close, because if you look at the overhang of a coach there, you can see immediately. And we've got the trusted Mark IV here. It's always a good idea to use your longest coach that you have in your possession to check for clearances, because even if that longest coach is not going to run on the layout, straight away that's clipping that. So that can't go there. Could it go here? It just fits there. So the ground frame could go there, because it can. Right, well, that ground frame could sit about there, and again that ground frame could sit about there. So I'll need to obviously mark a pen where that's going to go, and the ground frame for here could sit around about here. So it's just going to be straight track anyway. The ground frame for here could sit in this bit here. The alternative would be to cut this off here, have it coming down to there, but I would still have struggle for clearances, and I need to have some concrete in here anyway, as a sort of area of protection for the crews. Yeah, I think we'll go for that. I mean, in reality, I could even put it there. Right, well, I'll maybe go for it there. I've got the space drawn out for the ground frame there, so down at this point here. And I've also got signs to install as well. The complex process of this does, however, mean that it's not going to be an overnight job, and I'm not pretending that it will be, but I'm checking things to make sure that they are going to be absolutely right. As that frame will sit there, I'll draw a line on that bit there, and obviously I'll check the clearances for here and for here for the ground frames. They never sit on concrete ground frames, they'll always sit on a sort of ballasted or rough surface area. I've got some of the ground frames in place. This one and this one aren't in place yet. We've got to just test it, and we're going to use Bolton Wanderer 47831 as our test locomotive. What I'll do is I'll bring it forward. This is really to check for clearances again, and it will mainly be locomotives. Now, one thing that is apparent immediately is a slight derailment that's getting caused here, but it's then re-railing itself. Don't know why that's happening, but hey ho. We'll run it back into the siding. And that's given plenty of clearance there. I'll just run it up to the fuel point. Well, there we We'll just stop it there. And get my little cocktail stick to show you. What you can't see is that just here and here I've marked with a pen where I want these two to go. I'm going to apply Yoo-hoo glue to them, and then I'm going to glue them into position as I've done with this one here, and there's one just out of sight just up here as well to control this point here. They'll then be left in position, and obviously this whole area is going to have gravel put on it. One other little issue that's come up though, and I'm not sure if you can actually see this right now, is obviously the little gaps in the cork. There's not much I can really do about that. I'm going to live with it though, and it will be getting covered over eventually with ballast and then some walkways too and gravel, so there's not much I can really do about that. I've also bought a guide, as I've possibly already mentioned to you, about modelling depots, and I'll show you that up the stair in a few minutes time. I'm also going to try and get the rest of the grey board cut for the first couple of sidings here, and I've come up with an idea for the sleeper train in this siding here. Remember I mentioned to you I couldn't get the sleeper train in fully with a locomotive at the end without moving the buffer stops back. A friend of mine's pointed out to me though, this is only a level 1 depot. The sleeper stock for overnight servicing would actually go to or for daytime servicing, sorry, would actually go to a full level 5 depot for cleaning and maintenance of the locomotive and the sleeper stock. So in reality, the sleeper stock would actually arrive into Clydebridge, get emptied, and then get taken to Palmedy Depot in Glasgow for daytime maintenance. So you've got a very good point there, and that's actually what's going to happen. So the sleeper train will no longer sit in here, it will go to and from its own dedicated siding, which means that the buffer stop here can be moved back into position, although I'll be getting a gauge master buffer stop for here eventually for these 5 sidings. So it's a very good point that he's made there. We'll come back to this in a few minutes time. I'll get these glued in, but we're going to show you I've made a start on the shopping centre. Not everything goes to plan in this world, and I can talk from experience of that. I've been a passenger in a car going to somebody's wedding in 1996 and it got reversed into a pond. I was in the back seat, and no, it wasn't my wedding, I'm still single. What happened was that I was taking the old lady and her granddaughter off this bottom bit here, and her feet came off. Oh dear. But we can get around that. That can easily be sorted, but I've made a start here for my prep for the shopping centre, and this is just a photo I've got off the internet, doing using an internet search engine to get this. That's going to be the interior of a Woolworths there, and that Woolworths will now be on the ground floor. What I'm going to have to do is use this bit here, glue underneath to hold those two together, so I'll do that in a few minutes. And I'm going to be making a start on getting the new shopping centre built. And we'll do this front bit, and it's going to be complicated for next month's update because I'll be actually using lots of little bits of 1mm grey modelling card from Scale Model Scenery to actually make the shop front. So it's not going to be straightforward. It's going to be silver and black, and we'll give the Woolies sign. So that's actually going to be what I'm going to do next month. And then I've got to make up the actual area for the windows. I'm going to do that in a strange way because I'm going to actually make a test piece first of all, which will then out of normal white A4 card, so I can actually work out where I've got to put things, and I'll glue a piece up here to support this bit, and I'll glue another bit in there, and that'll give me the functions to be able to start creating the shop front. Now the Woolies logo is going to be quite big on this but Woolies is one of my favourite shops, and there's a good website, Woolies Buildings, which I'll put a link to in the description below, so you can actually check out what happened to your old Woolworths. I actually have to admit, as I say, I've got family pride and bias here, because my late dad's cousin Nan actually worked in the one in Cowdenbeath, which is now Pound Stretcher, and Woolies was pretty much all over the country. So that's why I've chosen Woolies for the ground floor, and I'll make a decision on what goes on the first floor. I'll get the modelling card cut to shape, but that'll for making the new frontage of the shopping centre, so that the windows will actually be all the same size and bigger. But in order to do that, I'll need to use A4 card from Ryman, which I'm going to do, and that'll form a template. Now this is why I decided to cut a template out. I'll need to actually get some more of this A4 thin card from the stationers. I've made my windows 6 centimetres long, 3 centimetres high, but when I put it on there, I've noticed that you can just see the floor. So what I've decided to do is to make the windows 2.5 centimetres high instead. So it'll be half a centimetre rather, coming off. So, well, actually, what I've done there is I've made the windows 4 centimetres, so it's really 3.5 I need to make them. There you go. I've actually made the windows just a little bit too big, so it's actually 3.5 centimetres I need to make them. So they'll come up to here instead, and that will give a sort of ledge, as it were. I'll get the other windows made for the top floor. I'll just work that out again on the template, and what I'm also going to do with the template is, see, it'll sit just about there. What I'm also going to do is get the sheet made up so it's actually to the right height, that sort of height there, to hide the roof line, which will necessitate me moving this all up. So I do have a rough idea now of what I'm going to need to do. The windows will need to be 3.5 centimetres high. And as I say, I've wrote it down in the bits that I've cut out. Ideally, I need to print this off on card so it can just stick to that card, and I've got a better actual image of a Woolworth store, by the way, downloaded. So I'll use that instead. I'll get that printed out initially on A4 paper so I can actually measure it and see what I want. And I'll get the bits added here, and I'll get a bit added along there for the floor of the upper level. And then all that being, well, should be good to go next month. And as I say, it's a bit disappointing I've got the dimensions wrong there, but I've got an idea now of what I need. I've got plenty A4 paper up in the house, so I can actually use that instead to make my window area. So we'll keep that then out, and I say we'll write that down. Each window 6 centimetres by 3.5 centimetres. Well, that's it back into position, and you'll notice I've put some brick sheet on here simply because if I have the camera pointing in this direction, you just plain modelling card. So that just provides not only a support, but it also provides a sort of realistic end for the shopping centre. And if I just put this back on here, I know the dimensions is wrong for the sheet, but it gives you an idea of what it will look like. And see, that'll have to get printed out again, probably onto card to make it stronger. And I'll stretch it out a little bit. Well, I've got a different site, a different interior image for a Woolworths, and I'll stretch that out a bit. Now, the one thing I haven't shown you yet is it with a Woolworths sign on there. Let's go just do that now. Now, I've not painted the Woolworths sign. I'll just put it up there though. And it would sit somewhere, I would have it sitting somewhere like that. So that's going to get painted, and that'll be a test paint ready for next month, when we start to build the shop interior, it is going to be a bit low down. There's not much I can do about that, but hey ho. But I'll take that back out. But once again, if I just show you that, that's going to look really good on there, Woolworth. And the big window, this is where it gets a bit awkward, but I'll try and do it as best I can. It'll be something akin to this. And Woolworth there. I'd really need to have the whole image in before I try the template again, but that's how Woolworth will look in there. That's going to be all next month, however, when I'll start work on that. And by the way, you'll notice I've got this joining piece in here. I'll need to make another joining piece that's a little bit wider, and probably 2 rings thick or 3 rings thick, something like that, so that it can actually all go out and get joined on. And I'm actually looking at this again, and I'm thinking to myself that this section here needs to be a little bit narrower. So I'll probably get another piece that's that width there, which is some kind of 2.5 centimetres, I think it is. Yeah, about 2.5 centimetres. So this bit might need to just come off and get replaced with a new bit, which I'll put a tarmac top on. I've got spare bits of tarmac. The reason for that being, of course, a rooftop car park, like what the posting centre in Kirkcaldy had. So you'll, but as I say, that's going to be for next month's update when I start work on that, and that's going to take a hell of a time. Speaking of the December update, that'll come out later in the month, because I'll also be attending the Cooper Model Railway Club Christmas show, which is up at the Corn Exchange in Cooper Town Centre, and I'll put a little bit of detail on that at the end of this video to tell you about what's happening there. And if you are able to get along, please do so. The club would appreciate your support. For the final bits of this month's update, however, we're going to leave the shopping centre, come back to that another date, and we're going to instead go and get more work done at the depot area. Here we've got beg your pardon, it's one of the neighbour's dogs saying hello. Be quiet. Let's try that again. What we've got here is part of what's left of the last sheet of concrete that I've got, and what I've done is I've took the piece that was over here and I've laid it down onto the concrete. To make sure I have it the right way, I've done something very simple. I'll just show top and top on there, and what I'm going to do is I'll get laser cut kit glue, put it along here, fashion these edges in and get that stuck down. I'll then place it in position to make sure everything's okay with it before I finally glue it into position. Once it's glued into position, I'm going to get a couple of manhole covers that I've got, and I'll maybe put one on there and maybe one on one of these pieces as well later on. And what that'll allow me to do is have manhole covers for drainage, because there's none there. It's a little bit plain, that, so this will allow to just a little bit of interest, and that'll then be that piece completed. And I've started cutting the walkways for here as well, you can see, and again top, and the length of that walkway it's on here is going to come to about here. I've marked it with a pen there. Cut mats actually up here because I've been painting the Woolworth sign, but you'll see that at another point. That's this piece down now, and notice the joins here. As my mate Trevor Stubbs has suggested, I'll get concrete sheets and glue them over that, so you won't see much of a join. And that'll be the same for these parts as well. The sheet is now on and it's glued on, but I'm going to leave it for a considerable time so it gives a good chance to dry before I then cut the space to put the manhole cover in. It'll be a triangular one, and we'll sit it in the middle somewhere there. That'll then add a little bit of interest to that piece here. What I can now do in the meantime is start installing the rest of this fence and get that round there. There's the dog again. I don't know which one that is actually. That'll go up to there, and that's actually what we'll get done next. We'll get that piece done and get that round there. Now after that, there won't be much work I can do with regards to the depot, certainly no concrete work. But what I will be able to do is get the rest of the grey board cut for the rest of the walkway, so that's all prepped and ready for whenever I get more concrete sheets. Quick shout out to Pride Parkway, by the way, a double deck layout. Check him out here on YouTube, and do, as I say, check out Stockton Junction, which I've already mentioned too, so go and check them out. And also, as we've got a Regional Railways rake of coaches here, look out on Facebook for Regional Railways Remembered, the forgotten sector of British Rail, Regional Railways. Go and have a check out of that.
Well, we're nearing the end of this month's update, and apologies for my voice sounding a little bit hoarse. I've got a little cold. No, it's not COVID, it's a cold. This is the old Hornby buffer stop that you can see that I painted many years ago, but you can also see how it's broken there. You see that? Well, I was down at Scree Hobbies today, and I was showing them a couple of things, and I've got this buffer stop. This is a Gauge Master one. It's GM55. Now, the Gauge Master sell these through various retailers or their own shop at Arundel in West Sussex, or you can get it online from them, or you can actually ask them who the nearest retailer is that sells it. So it's a black buffer stop, and you may be familiar with the lights because I've got them on the buffer stops currently at the station area, but next year when the station area gets redone, there'll be new buffer stops going in there. So I bought two today. I'll do maybe one or two at a time. I haven't turned the power on yet, but what I must tell you about these buffer stops is it clips into most standard track, and it takes power from the rail with no wires. The actual buffer stop itself, when you're installing this, you put the lights in first, and then you put the buffer stop over it. There's two lights that should come on red once I turn power on. So we'll wait and let that in fact, there you have it. I'll just move the camera in a bit. There you go. That's that. I did check out with the Tyne and Wear Metro, ScotRail and Merseyrail to confirm that the lights were on sidings at buffer stops and depots, and they all said yes. That's going, so that's therefore in place. So there'll be another one going in here, and something that's going to happen in the near future, probably in the January update, is we're going to start taking all of this out. My mate Matthew has said that it needs to be the N-gauge stuff, so this will all get taken out in various stages in January, possibly December as well. You can actually paint these buffer stops if you so wish, but I'm going to leave mine black, and it certainly looks a lot better than the Hornby offering. As I say, the Hornby one there, there's a little brick, you can see that there. Now if I do that, you can see, so that just go in the bucket. As I say, I've got a second one that I'll put on there. I'll occupy this siding, and then we can actually get down to installing a couple other things on the layout. Here we have then the drain cover is in place there. I'll need to try and dirty that whole area around there some point. And we've got this. This was the security fencing that I took off this bit when I started the depot rebuild. I've reinstalled it along here. And what my plan is, there'll be a walkway going across here, go to there, and up and over onto here. That'll allow access to this ground frame. I can install the walkway here whenever I want, but I can't really install the walkway over the tracks until I've got it ballasted. And I am a long way away from ballasting at the moment. In reality, the only bit I could ballast would be this section here. That's realistically all I can do. Back down here, as you see, I've got the second of the depot, new depot buffer stops in place. Just a little point to you, when you're installing the lights, always have the power turned off to avoid short circuits or damage. This one here in particular will have to come out when I come to redo this whole section here, taking all this up. And as I say, I'm a long way away from ballasting, and I'm going to be taking up all the ballast here. Hopefully I can do it without having to take this wall out. That leaves me with a little problem of here. Well, that's going to be easily sorted, because when this ballast comes off, I'll take a bit of modelling card and we'll have a section of concrete going along here as well. And I'll also need to get some fire extinguishers, which I'll do for the by the time of Model Rail Scotland. Hopefully if I'm able to attend, and hopefully if West Hill Wagon Works are there, I'll get fire extinguishers. If not, I'll order them online from either West Hill Wagon Works or Scale Model Scenery. But as I say, both these buffer stops and lights will have to come back up when I actually do come to ballast these sidings here. But as I say, we're a long way away from actually getting anywhere near that. That's going to be well into 2024, if even then. Now this sheet here hasn't been glued down yet, but I will take it up, as you see, and I will glue it down. And then I've also got to cover the join over here before I can put more fencing in. To finish off this month's update, this is a magazine that I bought out of my own shop recently, and it's very coincidental. It's come out by Key Publishing, Key Model World, modelling British Railways diesel depots. Now, it does cover both the diesel green eras and BR blue eras in the 60s and 70s. Then it goes on, also does sectorisation and privatisation eras, but it's not split into those sections. It's actually split into various parts, like the fueling points, depot equipment, internal user wagons. If you can't get it in your local shop, get in touch with Key Publishing and you should be able to get it ordered online. It's by Simon Bendel, with Terry Bendel providing some articles too. As you've got here, for instance, there's Exeter, Lera, Cardiff Canton on that page. It shows you some double gauge layouts as well, and the various equipments that you can buy, and how you can make up some buildings too if you so wished. These are buildings that Old Common, and we've got other things like washes, and it gives you also what sort of level your depot could be at. It gives you some suggestions for track plans, stabling points as well, buffer stops. So there's a lot to this book. It's very useful indeed, and I would certainly suggest and recommend that you should go ahead and buy it. Well, that completes this month's update. Next month we'll see 2 more videos. The first one will be from the Cooper Model Railway Club Christmas show, which is taking place at the Corn Exchange on the 9th of December, which is a Saturday. And if you put Cooper Model Railway Club into your internet search engine, you should be able to get some details of the show. It's a smaller show compared to the annual exhibition, which which is over 2 days and over 2 levels in the Corn Exchange. This one is a 1-day show on 1 level in the Corn Exchange, but I will be there, and if you've got your photo cameras or camcorders, do film them and put the results onto like some Facebook, YouTube. I'll be there with my camcorder, and if you see me, pop over and say hello. And then after that, it'll be the final update from the year in the layout, where we'll be starting work on rebuilding the shopping centre. We'll be doing phase 1 of that. You've already seen some prep work for that. Hopefully by then I'll have got over this chest infection and I'll be back to my normal self. In the meantime, please, whatever you're doing, do take care of yourselves, won't you? And enjoy your lets. And I'll see you soon. Bye bye for now.